You have been invited to ACME protocols on the load balancer and to Kemp security best practice. So, and I hope I can fulfill all of that today. Good. So let's get going. Topics for today, updates on the channel. Don't worry, there's not that much, just small minor things. Then we look into the ACME protocol. I have loads of slides for Let's Encrypt. DigiCert I was still in developing, so what I do with that, we just chase it and doing something live later on that rather than slides. So let's see how that works out. And Kemp security best practice is all the security features we have, and to kind of say a few words about those again. First topic, ACME certificate automation. So at the moment, you have two options on the load balancer to automate tickets. One is Let's Encrypt, and the other option is DigiCert. So Let's Encrypt, I've played with it quite some time ago and created some nice slides for that, which I have included here now in my last hurry in the last 30 minutes. I flogged that all in here so we can go through that. DigiCert, I'm not too sure if I need a public IP for it, so we will try it later on in the lab directly, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't work. As I said, that topic in my head, I was preparing that for next week, so I still have my my preparation time next week for that. So that kind of we need to improvise on that one. So those two options are right now on the load balancer in order to get you certificates and to auto renew them before they expire. To be honest, on a single load balancer, it does not really make that much sense. It's great to have it there, but it would be more senseful if you have it somewhere like in LoadMaster 360 in the SaaS solution, and you can able to push those certificates down to all the LoadMasters. Imagine you have multiple sites. It makes no sense to kind of have each load balancer requesting a certificate on that by themselves, right? So maybe those features in future might migrate over to LoadMaster 360 instead, where you can push that certificate to multiple distances. I think that's more the approach we should take, but let's see what the developers make out of it. So let's look into this. What is Let's Encrypt? So first of all, we have built it into the LoadMaster itself. You can use that even on a standard subscription. It's there. What happens is you can create a free public certificate for your application. But what you need is internet connection, because Let's Encrypt server will verify that the domain actually belongs to you. So how does that work? You request a certificate on Let's Encrypt. The server will, or the load balancer will send that request over to the Let's Encrypt server. That one will come with port 80 to the load balancer back, and also port 443, and check if the VIP is actually there and perform some tests. And those need to be passed, of course, and then the certificate will be delivered to the load balancer, including intermediate certificates and so on. You can use that for offloading, for re-encryption. You can also use that as an admin certificate for the load balancer GUI as well. And you can add up to 10 SAN names to it. You can't create a wildcard, but you can create a normal host name and up to 10 SAN names. A little bit for the background on this, it's a free automated option. It's an open certificate authority that's creating those, and you can request it free of charge. And before the timer of the certificate is done, most of the time it's about half a year, the lifetime. Before it's expiring, you can set 30 days, 10 days, whatever you choose. The load balancer will automatically request for a new certificate. Now, what you need to look out for on the load balancer. First of all, load balancer does a domain validation. It's generating the key, it's also making sure that the request is signed properly and it can renew. What you need to look out for hereby is it will not work when you have no sub VSs. So because the challenge that I'm talking here about is a sub VS that has a specific answer. If you have a very easy virtual service and the real server right behind, no sub VS can be created, so we cannot create the challenge to answer. So it works only for VIPs that have a sub VS or that have no real servers, so that a sub VS can be created and deleted again. Just something to hear about. So how does it work? You need to create or register an account with Let's Encrypt. So you enter your email address and it will generate an account. And once that is done, you can start straight away with a normal certificate request. I'm pretty sure you have all seen this, how a certificate request could look like. Then it will, after you submit that request, you have either two options. Either it's failing, right? And then you can look into the logs why it has failed, or it will tell you, yes, I've registered a certificate and it's fine to go. So the second message obviously is the one you want to see, and that means all preparation has been correct. The first message, yeah, something was wrong. Now let's look into how does it work. So once a certificate has been created, you will see that underneath in the fields underneath the Let's Encrypt request, your identifier and all your SANs will be in there, and the VIP that did the HTTP challenge. And if you have assigned it to services, sorry for that, they will show up as well. You also see the certificate in your SSL certificates, where all the other ones that you manually imported are there as well. And you can assign it to multiple VIPs or your administrative part. And you also see that the ACME CA intermediate certificate has been installed. Now, when you want to renew, so either it will auto-renew after X amount of numbers of days, which you can set yourself, but you can also manually renew the certificate, and then a new certificate will be requested and the time will be updated. You won't find the old one anymore. It will replace the old one with the new one, and the new time will be set. So in order to tell you what happens, so I did the audit logs for renewal, what is actually happening. So as you see, my virtual service 214 was changed. There was a rule added, the ACME rule to do the challenge, right? There was a sub VS created. The rule was added with an error code so that it can be checked that the domain is actually belonging to you. And then after it was all correct, it was deleted again and reversed. So you don't see those sub VSs there anymore. They get created and they get deleted. And then you see that your certificate has been renewed successfully after this. So there's lots of things happening in the background which you can't see, but in the log it's actually transparent. You can see it there. So that's the reason why I said earlier, either you have no real service behind your VIP and it's just a plain VIP, or you have sub VSs straight away so that a new sub VS can be created, right? So then, oh, that's a bit squashed here. I'm sorry for that. Let me move that a little bit. Too many spaces. Maybe I take them out. Gosh. I don't like things so cramped, but now at least it fits all on the slide. So what will happen is the LoadMaster sends a certificate request. Now we place a token into that sub-VS, as I mentioned before, and the Let's Encrypt server is trying to go to the domain that you have asked the certificate for. It will then connect to that sub-VS, fulfill the request, and confirm that. Once that sub-VS is done and the confirmation is there, it will all be deleted and the new certificate will be added. So here's just what I showed you earlier on here in the slide before. Is just a bit more explained here. Now, when you get an error, what was probably wrong? Okay, so you could get errors that didn't work, and in the error, it's actually telling you in the error what was wrong. And here, for example, it told you that port 80, the VIP did not exist, so there was no redirect from 80 to 443. So the redirect VIP wasn't there, and that was what this log was telling. So according to our documentation, you need to have a redirect from 80 to 443 in order for Let's Encrypt to work. Otherwise, the challenge on HTTP 01 didn't work, because that's a challenge built into the port 80 service. Okay, so that's so far from Let's Encrypt. Now we have a question here. Let me just try to open this. So Imre, no, actually we don't have a problem when HTTP to HTTPS redirect is created. We actually need that, otherwise it's not gonna work. That's just the message I was explaining here now. We do need the redirect from HTTP to HTTPS. So we need both ports open, 80 and 443. If you block 80 on your firewall, Let's Encrypt will not work. You won't see that big time in the log because the request never hits us, but you need both ports open. So does Kemp support DNS verification for non-internet facing load balancers? Stephen, that's a very good question. So Let's Encrypt is only for public domains, so anything that can be reached from external. So you can't, how should I say that? You can't confirm or you can't get a Let's Encrypt for an internal facing service only, because it cannot be confirmed. Let's Encrypt can't connect there. So what you can do is you can create the certificate on a public facing VIP and then assign it internally. That's something you can definitely do, but you cannot just have it internally because Let's Encrypt will not be able to verify that. Now, Matthew, will you be adding other certificate providers in the future? I don't want to say yes and I don't want to say no. I've been promised that we will add other certificate providers, but since they have not been added, so we only have DigiCert and Let's Encrypt right now. So I have not heard of others yet, but that doesn't mean that they will not come. It's just I cannot look into that far in the future. So I've been told 2 years ago we will add more, and DigiCert was added, so they were truthful, but I didn't hear of any more yet. But that doesn't mean that they will not come. Imre, question not about that open port, but I have a problem that also redirects to HTTPS, the request. No, the load balancer on port 80, when you request a new certificate, will create a sub-VS in that port 80 redirect. And that's why it can answer the challenge on port 80. It will not directly redirect to HTTPS. So that's totally fine. Now, Leandre had a question also. I want to understand, does this mean that we have a possibility of creating a Let's Encrypt certificate with a Kemp load balancer? Yes, we can create a Let's Encrypt certificate on the load balancer. Exactly. That's exactly it. Okay, so we have all the questions now entered, so that's good. Right. I can show you Let's Encrypt in my lab, but because I have no public address from external, I cannot verify a certificate, I'm afraid. That's why I have it very detailed here in the slides. But nevertheless, I was hoping I could go to the lab and we play a few minutes. Here is the demo for our ACME protocols. So good morning, everyone. We are at the load balancer home screen. ACME protocols can be found on certificates and security and the submenu ACME certificates. And there you can choose if you want to use Let's Encrypt or DigiCert. So for now, I have one service here, 155, that is doing central kempview.com. And I just noticed I didn't send it to the right server. So let me do this 1 second. This was me being funny this morning, trying to do something cool. Here we go, much better. Oop. Now it's going to the right service, so we don't have an error in a minute. Here we go. So this is the VIP I'm referring to. That was the server I just added. Never mind that. So central kempview.com arrives here, and this is what I want to create a certificate for right now. So I'm choosing ACME certificates. Let's encrypt. My account is already set in here. It's not really mine. It's one of my former colleagues, but anyway, he's in here. And now, after this was registered, I saw the screen. We don't worry about the old certificates in here right now. We are going to create a new one. So this is a normal CSR request, so we can fill that out. So we want central.kempview.com. So that was our name we want to have. That's the same name also for the identifier. The VIP we are going to send the challenge to is 155. And now we can fill out all the information. So as this lab is in Ireland, I'm just using the Ireland information. So that's i.e. Limerick, the city of Limerick. I know normally this would be Munster. I think that's the state, Munster. Limerick, Ireland has multiple different states. Company is Progress. I'm from the pre-sales department, so that's fine. We can add my address in here. That's cool. And key size of 4K key, 2K key should do as well. And now this certificate is being requested. And now we can either get a positive response back that everything worked out, or we get a negative response back that it didn't work out. And this was what I wanted to see. My certificate has been created successfully. Here we see our certificate is now there, valid until the 29th of April, and connected with my with the challenge was connected with my VIP. So now that this was created in 30 days before this runs out, so just the end of March, it will automatically be renewed for free. I have my ACME certificate as an intermediate installed, so I don't need to worry about the chain. And that new certificate is now available in my list of certificates. I didn't need to import that or anything. And I can now assign this to the VIP as well. Now, when you look into the ACME protocol again, you see the certificate has been assigned to a VIP also. Right. Also in my services now, you see the wildcard was there before, and we have now added our new created certificate also. Pretty nice. So let's just open the page as well. I think maybe that will help us to understand this properly. So you see, here we go. And now I wanted to see the certificate. Come on, show me the certificate. There you go. Of course, the wildcard is already triggering, so that was there before. Let me just change the order of those. Take the wildcard out, add the wildcard in again. Come on, down here below, that's fine. And we do a refresh. Now we should see our proper certificate. Come on. I hope the cache, browser cache, is not playing tricks on me now. It is, gosh. So let's open an incognito window instead. Central.kemp. Why are you always falling back on that wildcard? Oh, I understand. No, it's clear to me now. That's to be expected. Sorry about that. As you see here, there is a different load balancer in front, right here in front on a different IP, and that one is already opening up. So you, as a client now, I'm of course seeing the one externally. So yeah, that's why. Sorry about that. But anyway, that certificate is assigned internally. So it is definitely there. Cool. Right. So that was Let's Encrypt. In your logs, you can actually see what happened. So here we go. Let me just review that. The messages is actually great when there was an error, but for us it was successful. So let's go into the warning, much better. So here you see that I requested the certificate 740 this morning, and it created a challenge with a token and everything. So it needed to get access from externally into to kind of reach that challenge. For that, we created a sub VS where where a content rule was created and a file was placed behind the error 200 page with that specific code. Then after the verification finished, that error page was taken off again, the VIP was deleted, the rule was deleted, and we got the message that our certificate has been issued successfully. And then you see here that I've manually changed I added the certificate, and then afterwards I changed the order of my certificate and the wildcard certificate. So you can see all of these things. So that's what happens in the Let's Encrypt part behind the bonnet. Now, going to the next piece, ACME certificates, DigiCert. You need to enter the key identifier and the HAMAC key, and then you can enter your account email address as well. And once that is finished, you get in here. Now, honestly, it took me a while for DigiCert to get into all of these. So first things, you need to register with DigiCert. Then you need to enter your organization, and that need to be validated. So that validation process for me took nearly 2 weeks. I know it should be faster, but it took me multiple phone calls and a while. Then you also enter domain. So you see here, I entered the mailcampview.com domain, and I also got that validated. So that was a challenge going in, checking if that domain is actually reachable. And then once you have those two things, validated organization and domain, you can go to automation and in the app keys, here we go. There you could create an app key, and while doing that, I'm just demonstrating this here for you now. While you do this, it's oh sorry, it's not the app key, my bad. It's the ACME directory URL. That's what you want. So you create that. Here I have it called Kemp, And when you do this, it's actually asking you for what kind of product you want, what division it is in. So that was the organization you needed to have validated. Otherwise, you don't get through this. And then for how long you want this. And after that's done, once you confirm this, you get your two keys, the key and the ACME key. They won't be displayed afterwards anymore. You only have a certain moment to do that. And yeah, and then they don't get shown anymore. And this was what I entered here into the load balancer. Now, other than that, it looks similar to the Let's Encrypt part. So 30 days before the certificate is not valid anymore, but it's not 3 months you do the certificate for, it's a year or more. So when we request a new certificate, it looks exactly the same as it did with Let's Encrypt a minute ago. So let's just try to fill it out in the same way now. No, come on. Too early in the morning, my fingers are not doing what they're supposed to do yet. Go. Oh, come on. Here we go. So now we send this out. And same thing again, either it's successful or it's not successful. And now that we already had a successful one, how about we look into a non-successful one and why that one was not successful? So let's have a look in the logs. And it tells us, hey, great attempt. I tried to get a certificate from DigiCert, but I had an error, and the error is you have no payment method behind it. That's true. Let's Encrypt is free. DigiCert is not free. And even though I tried to add a payment method this morning, my credit card was not allowed. So I need to call them again, but I wanted to record this video for you anyway. So now you saw it's the same process afterwards, after registration. And here, I just couldn't show you the successful piece because of the payment method not being allowed. Sorry for that. But at least you saw the jing of it. Let's have a look in the warning. So also with DigiCert, there is sub-VS being created with a challenge file and so on. So that's similar to what Let's Encrypt is doing. We do the same thing for DigiCert also. The cool thing, if that would have worked, the certificate would have been online here. I could have downloaded it and applied it to some other machine as well. That's something I can't do with Let's Encrypt, but that's where you pay for it, right? So that's what the difference is. Okay, I would continue to our second topic because that was what you referred here or what you signed up for as well. And this is all the different security features that are present on the load balancer and how to use them, right? So we do have a functionality called client rate limiting, which allows you to set global limits on client connections. How many connections is a client allowed to have in total? How many clients or connection can a client have per second? How many requests per second can a client have? The same you can set globally. How many connections are allowed in, how many requests are allowed, and so on. And even on URL-based options, even per user agent. How many requests is Google allowed? How many is Chrome allowed, and so on. This allows you to work against DDoS attacks. Okay, so that's one option to prevent against DDoS attacks. You can even do that in a virtual service or even a sub-virtual service and limit requests to your application that way also. Now we also have a functionality called GSLB, geo load balancing, which allows DNS resolution to multiple sites, or if you only have one site, through 2 different internet connections, and so on and so on. There are endless possibilities, but there is an IP reputation piece involved, which means we have daily updates on bad actors, and we could block them already so they don't even get an A record out by their reputation list, which is also a DDoS protection to help you against malicious sources on IP reputation part. Then we do have pretty well built web application firewall based on the core rule set. So that puts us equal power to the Azure or Google WAF options, because they also use that. And there was a guy from Norway, I think, he did run tests against all different cloud WAF, and the resolution was that the vendors that use the open core rule set, they have the highest rate on protecting against threats and attacks, and the load balancer is using the same core rule set, so we are as good as them as well. Now, with that, you can inspect ingoing and outgoing traffic through preset rules. You can create your own rules. I was playing with it yesterday because I had a request about logging. The customer wanted specific things logged, and even that is something you can do very nicely with WAF, getting the query item and the URL that was requested because that customer wanted API logging and so on. So that was is also possible using the WAF engine. Pretty nice. It's protecting against all different common web exploits and vulnerabilities. OWASP top 10 might be something you heard about this, and we can check for positive, and you can then create rules against those. So in 2021, those top 10 vulnerabilities have been as listed here in my slide. I see your questions. I'm not avoiding them. I'm just trying to get through those slides, but let me have a quick read. Another scenario is RD Gateway. I mean, RD Gateway is a, Simon, that's a specific application. RD Gateway can be via 443, then we can definitely use Let's Encrypt certificates. But if you just use the load balancer as the session, what is it called? Session gateway? No, not session gateway. So that's 2 options: session host or connection gateway. I think that's not web traffic. That is 3389. I think it's direct connection. So then we have nothing to do with a certificate, because it's not a web traffic going through that, right? It's normal generic traffic. Leandre, can you do without a WAF if you have a load balancer? I mean, a load balancer is a reverse proxy, so it definitely helps you already against threats and so on. The web application firewall is an add-on, right? It's an addition. So you can go for it if you need it, and you can just have it not turned on if you don't need it or don't even subscribe for it. The web application firewall is an extra security layer. Nowadays, security is like an onion, right? The more shells and the more pieces you have, the better. So from that perspective, you can never be protective enough. So that's just thing. You need multi-layered security, and WAF is just one of those layers, right? Reverse proxy is another layer. Authentication is another layer. Your perimeter firewall is another layer. MFA maybe, content rules, and so on. There's loads of things you can layer on top of each other. And the more layers you have, the less easy it is to get into your infrastructure, right? So that's just all I'm saying on that. Now, after the connection rating and the WAF, we also have the Edge Security Pack to allow pre-authentication. So we collect details, send that to an authentication provider like SAML, LDAP, Radius, and so on. And only when they confirm, then the connection is done to the end. I did some webinars last year about SAML and OIDC and so on. So you have, it's not the first time I'm talking about this authentication options. So you have the option even to modify your own form-based formula if you want, or do a capture in there if you want, or even MFA with a token as well. So that's all possible to protect yourself against threats. So at least an attacker needs to authenticate first before he gets to your application to do something nasty. We also have an intrusion prevention system based on Snort. So the Snort.org engine is involved as well. How do I say that? We set, the LoadMaster comes with a starter set of rules. And of course, you can add more, you can create your own, you can register with Snort.org and download rules there and add them to the load balancer. But it's not like a web application firewall where you can do fine tuning and you say this rule applies to this VIP and another doesn't. This is something that is on the global level. You can say, okay, how paranoid should I go with the rules? And then any VIP that is enabled for this will go through the same rules on the paranoia level you have set globally. The only thing you can choose is should it lock, should it block, or should it do both? And that's it. So just Snort, but it comes with an enterprise level. So if you don't want to go for a full WAF with Enterprise Plus, you have the option to use Snort on Enterprise already. Right, on top of that, there is the packet routing filter, which allows you to create access and deny lists. You can do that globally for any application you run on the load balancer, or even for the web GUI if that's your goal. So you can create lists of who's allowed to contact or not. But that also exists in each virtual service. So for each virtual service, you can create your own access and deny list and say which appliance or which IP is allowed to go to this VIP and consume the application behind it, and which isn't. Pretty nice. Much nicer, for example, than the Exchange access list, because there you can only set an IP on the allow list, but there's no comment field, right? So here, as you can see, there's also a comment. So actually you can explain yourself why you put an IP or a certain network range into the blocked or the allowed area, and you can write a comment about that. So that's pretty nice, much nicer than to have to clean up the, for example, the Exchange mail access list. And then last but not least, there's also content switching as a security measure. I mean, you might have noticed, yeah, we can use content switching to dictate what server the traffic should go to or into what subvias it should go to. But this can also be harvested for other reasons. So, for example, you can create a content rule to look into the source IP header. And here in this case, you see there's a must fall. So that means, or must fail, sorry. That means if anyone out of the 10.0.0.0/24 range is going to this VIP, he can't go further. He won't be able to go to the server. He will be dropped. Similar, you can do something for browsers. If your company says that application can only be used by Edge or something like that, you can create a rule. So here in this case, I have the rule that Firefox is not allowed, but you could use Edge as well and just say with a colon, you could say, hey, it's reversed. Anything else than Edge will be blocked and I'll only allow Edge through. So those options are possible as well. And you might remember those cookies here on the bottom. These are Hafnium cookies for the Exchange exploit. It's now 2 years ago. Oh God, the time is running. So you can use content switching there, for example, to protect against those kind of things by, for example, blocking those exchange cookies that were causing the vulnerability there. So in my opinion, content switching definitely also is security functionality. And now the cool thing, as I said early on, like onions and multiple layers, you can intertwine all of these functionalities together. You can use them together. The only thing I wouldn't recommend is using Snort and WAF, because why would you run the same rules twice? Okay, because some of the Snort rules are also included in the open core rule set. So I would not waste resources on that, running through similar rules twice. But other than that, the access control, the client rating, WAF, and ESP can all be used together, content switching as well. So you can use within the load balancer that is already hardened by itself and already a reverse proxy, which is protecting your application already. You can add multiple security layers as well by combining all of the other mentioned functionalities also in your application. Good. And that was actually part of my presentation. And I got through much quicker than I thought. So we still have 12 minutes. That's great. If there are more questions, I was going to show stuff. So we can actually look into the lab for ESP if there are questions, or we can look into the client rate option or into WAF, whatever you like. I'm happy to demo that while we still have the time. So maybe just to explain the, maybe the difference between Snort rules and WAF, I will go through that. So they recently have moved all the pieces. Let me just quickly have a look where that is here. IPS, IDS, there we go. Intrusion detection options. You find that on the latest GA version on certificate security, IPS, IDS. On older versions, it was still in miscellaneous options. This is intrusion detection options. This is where you can upload new rules to the Snort engine. And you can select the detection level. So you see here only critical. There's also high, serious, and critical, and paranoid with all problems, and only logging. So default is this level. So you can choose globally what level the rules should trigger or not trigger. And then when you go into a VIP, here we go, let's choose one. You have the option within your VIP to select detect malicious requests. And with that enabled, now you can choose, should I send a reject or will I drop the connection and should I log it? And that's it. Now my Snort engine is activated and will run through the rules that are set globally and will apply that. So that's how easy it is to enable Snort. Now let's disable this again. WAF. Here we go. You just enabled WAF. The threshold by default is 100. I reduced it to 10 already because I use this also for demos for customers to show how rules are triggered and when the WAF is blocking a request. So you see the core rule sets. This is all in those buckets here. They're all enabled by default, all of them. There's no application specific rules. They're all generic in order to also detect zero-day attacks. And you can create your own rules. As you see here, I have lots of custom rules. For example, my logging test I did yesterday, deny rules I've done in some of the WAF webinars, just to show that. From what release version do we have those features? I mean, the new WAF, you still see the legacy option, which will now disappear in version 60, but the new WAF is already in the LTSF version and in GA, obviously. In the 48 option, the the old LTS, you still have the legacy WAF, but I would not recommend that at all anymore, because that was with TrustWave, and they have parted the ways 2 years ago. So I wouldn't go for the old one anymore. Personally, I don't understand why anyone is still on LTS 48 version. Yeah, most of my customers are on LTSF or GA, but that's up to you. I personally like all the new features. For example, the sorting option here, that's something that's only there in GA. You don't have the option in the other ones to search for a name and only get the VIPs that are according to this name, or to go by a status and only see the ones that are up or down. You don't have any of this nice stuff in the LTS or LTSF version. So I personally are always on GA, but that's something you need to decide yourself, right? If you want to duplicate sub VSs, if you want to duplicate content rules, for example, here, those options that you don't need to recreate them anymore and you can duplicate them, then you need to go for GA. There's no way to do that on the LTS versions. I hope I answered your question, Leandre. Okay, but this is not advertisement for the GA version. I'm just me personally. I like to see all the new features and be able to play with them. Okay, going back. So WAF. Getting back to that, so we can enable that. Already there will be a false positive, which I can go through, and I can then look into the rule, read the rule, what is triggered there, and it gives me the log when the rule was triggered and why and so on. So that's pretty nice. And then I can see, is that actually false positive triggered? Then I can do countermeasures against that. And if it's valid triggered, then I don't need to do anything. I just reduce my threshold. Also, we can select to check the responses of my server, and I can even do country blocking if I want to, and stop specific requests from certain countries going into the load balance in the first place. So that said, then we have ESP. So let's look into that. So we can do a pre-authentication. Here I have it just enabled to do the logs, but you can also make sure that people come with the right host name. If not, they get an access denied. They can only go to certain directories. If they don't go to them and choose something else, they get access denied. And we can, of course, do, for example, phone-based authentication and force anyone to go through our authentication process in order to get to the web page in the first place. Which obviously can also have challenge requests and so on. Let's see if I can pull it off right away to show you. So this was, this was an image that I put an image there together with a customer in that case. So that was a university in Germany. And now I can add my user. And I have an MFA. It's asking me for a code. No, I just got a fire brigade alarm. Sorry about that. But we finished now anyway. Good. Now I need to authenticate, so I'm staying calm. You hear that? Let's finish this. Okay, and And now you see I'm authenticated with an MFA to get through my page. Cool. Okay. No, let's encrypt on this side. Do it for us quickly. I can't, Simon, because as I said before, I have no public IP address. I showed you that earlier. I can't do the let's encrypt right now, not from this lab. As I said, I will record it today and it will be added to this video. And you get a link for it. Cool. From that perspective, DigiCert and Let's Encrypt, I will record videos on that to add them to this link. And then we can all use that. Cool. I wish you a good day, guys. It was a pleasure. Bye-bye.